Okay, I've got a good joke. Why didn't the dog want to play football? Because it was a boxer! Welcome to Better Life Project TV, the place to be to help make your awesome business and life happen. My name is Sarah and I am so excited that you have joined me today. On today's show is none other than Ross O'Dwyer, CEO and co-founder of Pundit Arena, a sports media website driven by aspiring and established journalists and heartfelt and hardcore sports fans. I am so excited for him to share his story about what he's had to do to get to where he is right now. But enough from me, guys. Let's hear it from Ross O'Dwyer and a big virtual round of applause. Guys, I am so excited to welcome to Better Life Project TV, Ross O'Dwyer. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Awesome. I'm really excited to get you onto the show to learn a little bit about your journey. I spoke to Dan Lennon on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he said that you were an incredible person to get onto the show. And I've obviously Googled you, and I couldn't agree more. For anyone, though, who might not know what Pundit Arena is, can you explain to them in your own words what it is and what inspired you to set it up?
Sure. So the core concept behind Pundit Arena is to become one of the biggest but most stellar premium publication in sports in the world. That's the vision of the company.
Kind of gives you goosebumps.
Yeah. And trust me, like when we come from where we are, in November 2013, we had 386 users a month. Last month we done 2.1 million.
Last month?
Yeah, last month. And they're monthly users. So, and like our team's at 12. So we've raised finance, all that good stuff. But that's the kind of path we want to get to. And in terms of a founder point of view, when we get there, you know, I'm not saying that's job done, we'd have to revisit, but in a way it's job done, we'd have to reevaluate. But, you know, here's where we are, here's where we started, here's where we are, here's where we have to get to. But it's a really exciting one. I suppose what a lot of people like about Pundit Arena is that as part of the publication, we lowered the barriers to entry to sports journalism. The only barrier we didn't lower was quality. So we opened up a world where you can contribute to our publication, be you based in Dubai, London, Toronto, Sydney, Dublin, wherever you are. So we've grown our contributor base from zero effectively to around 430 people worldwide. We have a specific team that manages them, and no content goes up on Pundit Arena without being edited. So works with them, edits their content. We have an internal learning system that teaches remote contributors how to create great content, and we have a rejection rate of around 80% of applicants. You know, it's very simple, and I always explain why we have that. If I want to play soccer for Manchester United in the morning, I'm a big Manchester United fan. I can't. I'm just simply not that good enough to play for Manchester United. Pundit Arena is not like, say, a free-for-all. You've got to be really good. You've got to have raw talent. It's very similar, even to go to explain it in more detail. Manchester United, or any big soccer clubs in the world, are always feeding through from a youth academy, and they're looking for guys to break through to the first team. If you have raw talent, we're happy to take you on and try and progress you along. But
so you guys are like an academy? In
a way, and then we have a lot of polished guys there as well. But we're really trying to, raw talent is what we need, and we're willing to work from there. And some guys are really polished when they even apply, and there's very little more improvement. They're really top grade stuff. But that's what we like to do. Obviously, and it's I think it's fantastic that we actually have that amount of people that most of them I'll never meet, and that's the coolest part of it for me. And I just see that media going forward. When Richard and I co-founded the company, we both had a vision to see like why can't we take the knowledge of a fan that knows so much about the sport and lives it, breathes it, and bring it over. And so that's a core part of our vision. That along the way we're gonna expand the contributor base, because that ultimately feeds back to the sports reader much better.
You are empowering so many people to pursue their dreams in some way, because I think a lot of you focus on 7 to 8 sports within Pundit Arena.
We actually focus on 5 core sports at the moment, and that's a deliberate action. It's very tough to scale the business, because if we do horse racing, but we do a kind of big partial, then the reader's saying, oh, those guys aren't good, they're not fast. Whereas when
You need
we
to be able
bring
to
it
reach.
back, you've got to be. You're doing that sport in its entirety, and so it's important that for us. But we're adding a 6th sport. We're going to add a 7th sport. On that way to that vision, we will add all mainstream sports and some non-mainstream too, no doubt. So it's all about managing where you are on that path along the journey, and we are right now, and we will be where we will be in 6 months or 2 years and whatnot.
So how did you get started? Before anything kicked off in November 2015, what was going on then?
Yeah, so I suppose for me, always been an ideas guy. I'm dyslexic, so creation, innovation, ideas, just it's part of my life. I went to the physio the other day. We're looking at insoles, and straight away I've thought of 2, 3, 4 ways we can improve the insoles.
Okay.
That's just me. So my Evernote ever grows. Excuse the pun with ideas. And I guess back then, coming into finishing in University College Cork, I was looking at I'd already decided maybe post 2nd year in college, I was going on my own. It was just a question of what I wanted to do. And I suppose back then, my mind frame probably wasn't right. The word going on my own says that. I wasn't going on my own. What I realised very quickly is I was going on a long journey, and I was going to bring a big team of people with me that really wanted to achieve that vision too. And I looked at Pond Arena, I liked it. I like what you're talking about when you refer to empowerment. I'm a big sports fan. Just tied up for me, and I was thinking okay, all these things stack up. I could get this product launched on less than €100. I was a broke student. Everything just fitted. And I said I'd go for it. And that's how I came to it. The story of how Pond Arena started is kind of an interesting one then, in that the incubator head, where I actually met Danny, allowed Richard, my co-founder, Richard Barrett, and I both onto the same incubator with the same idea, essentially. I had Pond Arena. Rich had a product called Sport is Everything. And they were the same idea. And very similar. I was talking about paid user-generated content. Richard was talking about user-generated content. And the chances of us going to the same college, applying for the same program, are so minute. And Eamon left us both on, didn't say anything to us, and just said, you should meet Richard for a coffee.
So you and Richard only met in the,
unbeknownst to each other. So I went in on the first day, said what I was doing, went around the table. Richard spoke last. Richard said, I was shell-shocked. I was like, that's essentially the same thing.
What are the chances of something like that happening?
Yeah, very, very tiny to go for the same incubator and all that stuff. So when we thought about it, about 2 weeks in, we actually just sat down on Saturday morning and decided to merge. We decided we'd keep Pond Arena because of the brand, unique IP, the .com, trademark ability, all that, and we were going to create a brand, a publication. So it was very interesting for me, and shows that maybe I'm pro-risk in a way we were, and blind risk we took then, because that was blind risk. When we take risks now, it's very calculated. So went for it, barely knew each other, and then we never really looked back. And Eamon Curtin, people talk about investors taking bets. He was taking bets on people that didn't know each other. He's met them 2 or 3 times, so it's, the chances are in the 7 figures to 1, I would say, of that ever happening. But it's been cool. So there's been a good vibe from the start with Pond Arena.
Tell me about the role that your dyslexia has played in the journey so far. I mentioned to you before we started the cameras rolling, when I was in the leaving cert, I was struggling a lot reading, writing. I was just at a really slow pace to everybody else. So I went off to a specialist, and she diagnosed me with a visual reasoning disorder, which just means, again, I'm slower at picking stuff out. It's a form of disability. It's made me very self-conscious at times, but fortunately it's never held you back. You've described your dyslexia as a gift, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
I mean, I think to summarise it, if I had a choice to be dyslexic or not, I'd choose to be dyslexic. But I'll give that some context, because I have friends that are severely dyslexic. I'm maybe mildly, maybe just slightly past mildly, or in the mild space. If you have heavy dyslexia, someone that might hear this might say, I wouldn't say the same, and that's a whole different, it's a whole different gravy. I'm very lucky. My friends, when they read something on the wall, they need to zoom it in, and that's really difficult. The choice for me to have mild dyslexia or not would be a yes. But it is a disability, a registered disability, and there's ups and downs to it. So like I've certainly had the pros for me, ideas, creativity, vision, all that sort of good stuff are unbelievable, and I'm very grateful for it, and I hope I'm putting it to good use on a daily basis, and nothing excites me more about getting into that sort of stuff. And when I look at my job, I'm really lucky that my work part of my life has so much of that involved in it.
I'd say there's about 400 odd users on Pundit Arena that are very grateful that you've been able to do what you've done.
Sure. On a personal level, does it have an effect, a negative one? Sure. I mean, I'm the CEO of a media company which prides itself on producing premium content, and sometimes in my emails, I don't have them spelling right. And there's some days where I've got so frustrated with that because I can't put stuff out in a timely process. Where, and there was this one day I was like, I have enough of this. I'm done. I'm going to go get English grinds to go back and get it right. Obviously, spell check's there, so that's a big plus. But grammatically, how I'm at the races, I need to be better at it. Some might say I don't have to do that. I would disagree in that I'd be letting down the rest of my team at Pundit Arena if I wasn't going to say, no, I have this problem. But I'm not going to say I'm going to fully beat it, but I'm going to put as much effort into it as I can to mitigate that, so that I mightn't get to 100%, but 85, 90 is certainly better than 10, right? And I looked at it, and I do that, and there's some parts of it where I'll always have to say, if we're putting out a big proposal, or if a pitch deck, pitch or anything like that has to be checked. That's just life. I think I've got to accept that for what it is, mitigate it as much as I can, and there's not and then take the massive upside and concentrate on what I'm good at. And there's bad moments with it. I gave an interview to a magazine, and I had to give written answers, and I was saying to the guy, this is going to be tough for me time-wise for you because I need to get it checked, and they're heavy questions, so it's going to take me some time. And he's like, no. I was like, do you want to just record it and take it? And he said, no, written, please. So there's sometimes like that, but like I said, I wouldn't, mild dyslexia, the way it works for me, I'd prefer to have it rather than not, and be mitigating those risks. But I think the big thing is in school they say to me, it's no problem, you can write what you want. And you're like, but the lecturer on the other end, or the teacher, he's getting it, and it's like, it's rough to correct. So like, I've got to take the conscious decision to say that, no, I'm going to do my best to mitigate it. And whatever my best is, that's what it's going to be. And I can't look, no one can say to me, he doesn't put in substantial effort to try and mitigate that. And does he? And some people say, but you don't have to do that. But I feel like I have to, because I'm accepting of it. I'm not denying it. I'm accepting it and doing something about it, and accepting that I'll never be 100% in it, but I'm good with it.
It's so empowering to hear someone talk about what many people might perceive as a weakness, and you're able to, with confidence, take ownership over it and turn it into something that you can control, and turn it into something that you can actually use to benefit you in some way, because there's obviously a very strong creative side there. You've mentioned that you've had lists of businesses that you'd like to pursue, like even the soles in your shoes. You're obviously seeing things that a whole lot of people aren't seeing. I'm looking at the shoe and I'm going, whatever. You're looking at it going, I gotta make it better. So it's so incredible to see someone frame something in that way. I work with so many people who feel like they have a weakness or a problem, and it doesn't occur to them that they can take control of that and make it better. It doesn't occur to them that they can mitigate that risk, that they can mitigate it, that they can make it better. And I think it's incredible to hear you talk about it, particularly someone who's as successful as you in Pundit Arena. So it's incredible.
Thanks. No, it's and to anyone, whether it's outside of the sexy or not, I think that everyone knows how much effort they put into something. And I think if everyone's honest with themselves, they look at their day. No one's giving 100% exactly to something. And some tasks they will, some tasks they won't. And it's all off what the people really value and what they really care about. If you can look at yourself and say, I'm mitigating that to the best of my ability, whatever the outcome is, then no one can ever say to you, or you can never say to yourself, I wasn't really putting an effort there. And whatever that outcome is, whether it mitigates it to a big fan of percentages, 90%, 95, or 70, that's what it is. You can't. You got to see the line of where once you put in all that effort and you have the best people helping you, that beyond that, you can't control it, and be okay with it. Because if you're not, you cannot not be. It's like it's like gravity. You simply can't. There's nothing you can do about it after that.
What motivates you the most in the business at the moment? Like, what gives you that get up and go factor? What gets you most excited about doing what you do?
I'd say back in January, which is really weird. I kind of lost my drive a small bit, which people like would be shocked to hear. We raised the seed round of 650,000 euros. Got some fantastic investors.
Congratulations for that.
Oh, cheers!
6 months later.
No, it's good. Like people like Colin Line, Paul Davey, John Lampier, Graham King, Conor Mann, all lovely, great people, and I learned so much from them, and we're really lucky to have them involved in the business. But for me, the drive, and people would say, how come it wasn't like I was not doing my job or I wasn't giving 100%. For me, the driver had shifted, and I couldn't quite find what it was anymore. And previously it would have been like, I'm Ross of the War, and when I go to work, I'm going to be really driven to do the products that I see fit for the market, and I'm going to hammer them home. That was always kind of my driver, and obviously very respectful of who was doing it with me and everything like that. But I was misplaced in it. I didn't understand where it was. And it hit me. That I was no longer working for me anymore. When I look at the team that's in Pundit Arena, and I look at all these people that, when I bought the domain on College Road in April 2013, living in a bad little room on College Road, and I see Meeting Rich being accepted into the incubator. All of a sudden now, you look around and all these people are basically saying to you, leave aside money, because money is just something that enables people to live, in my opinion. We need to say, I believe in what you guys are going to do so much that I'm actually going to dedicate my life, my work life to it. Like that's a big commitment. And when I look around at the talent in the team in Pundit Arena and the phenomenal effort that from everyone that was put in to help us hit the numbers to raise that, and specific parts of the business, say our editor, John Murphy, who forever just seems to better himself and better the team and develop and change and fit the market. And even how he came to Pundit Arena, that he saw the journey we were on and pitched himself. That the driver no longer was the journey I was on. It was the driver was, I felt like I needed to get better at what I do. I needed to develop faster. I needed to do better. I needed to really go the extra mile for them, because they were the ones that were putting so much trust in Rich and I and saying, we really believe here. And that simple basic principle that if I'm doing my job really well and everyone else gives their whole effort to their job, then we're going to succeed. And the driver now for me on a daily basis is all these wonderful people that have given either a small bit to Pundit Arena, introductions, or work on a daily basis, invest in Pundit Arena, advise Pundit Arena, talk about Pundit Arena. Martin Corky, the regional director of Enterprise Ireland, said that we were disrupting an industry on a massive scale the other day. He's under no obligation to say that. For everyone that's believing in it right now, that's what drives me. That's self-drive. It changed back January. I don't know why. I can't. Maybe and I would say the word realization in my head that it becomes so instant in raising the money that I knew if I didn't do it, then we wouldn't be able to scale. And after that, it was probably after Christmas. There's probably that reflection period for me.
You must feel so proud of what you've accomplished. After hearing you describe the experience over the last 6 months and how people have invested personally into you, you must just kick back and go, I'm proud of what I've done. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely proud. I'm proud of what the team's done. I'm proud that the brand, 2.1 million people last month used our product and trusted our product.
And that's across the world, that's global.
Yeah, so about 50% of our traffic we come from Ireland and the UK, and then Canada, the States, Australia, New Zealand, and the rest for the million or so. That's a proud moment, and it's a proud moment for the team, and I'm proud that people were willing to invest in a founder-led business, but very much so, like I even said on the Skype interviews with guys the other day, I said that, how do you feel about teamwork and really coming in and doing your role specifically well? Like the best example of teamwork for me is Barcelona Football Club. You've got Messi, who's this world best player, and everyone else slots in around that team. and it's cool to have individual excellence, and we're all for that. But then if everyone's doing their specific role, then that's what we're looking for. So I think, it was a great, the investment and the scale since has been a great movement and confidence in Punta Arena, and it's important that the team keeps paying back in terms of its development, the publications development for people that have believed in it, because they're putting themselves on the line, whether it's introductions, investment, advice, promotion. Then these are all people that are now saying it's no longer me or Rich. They're saying they're saying we believe in your whole team here, guys.
Is there anything that you or Rich as founders do to help manage the team, inspire them, or empower them in any way? What do you do to keep the team gelled together?
Sure, we do a lot of things. Probably one of the best examples of late is Brian Barry, who was a remote contributor with us, and then Brian actually came into the business full time as one of our internal team.
No way.
Yeah.
So this guy just being a random Joe contributing towards Punta Arena is now full time with you? Yeah,
sure. And he knew Richard before I knew him, and he was involved with Richard's side. Then he came into Punta Arena, and then he worked into Punta Arena, and it's fantastic to see. And he's phenomenally talented. Yeah. You won't meet a more driven, more passionate guy at what he's doing. But Brian leads up GAA content for us, and Brian came and said, "Hey guys, I'm looking to go into basically a type of video journalism called Mojo." And basically, the concept is that if you have an iPhone 6S or iPhone, but that level of camera on it can shoot in 4K, which is higher definition than HD.
Whoa.
So it's just basically you can shoot crystal clear.
Okay.
And Brian said, I think we should invest in this so that we can go into doing a video ourselves.
Okay.
And the investment was I'd say a third of the cost that we would typically quote to do video production for our clients. So and this is a no-brainer. I said, it does sound that I'm trying to get my head around that these guys go bring these heavy duty cameras. They're saying that we can do all this on an iPhone 6S. So we met one of the guys at RTE and he pitched it to us and he showed us the quality. And I was like, you're telling me that was shot on this phone? And he's saying, or some other phone. Yeah. I was like, hey, we're sold. We backed Brian to go on the course, to go to the conference and learn it. And Brian went over to the European Championships. And I don't know if you heard the song Taking Over France, Mick Constantine, and the video went viral. Found a guy with a red ukulele.
Yeah.
He videoed it. It took off on like 7.7 million views. Ended up turning into a #1 charity single here in Ireland for Special Olympics. And that's a whole other story which someone can check out if they're listening. There's actually a complete backstory to how Brian had upskilled in the first place.
Yeah.
So we're always willing to back staff to create new skills, to create new talents within the company and themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, I can say, we're fully behind you. It's about writing the check to say, we are behind you. There's the action. You've got to back it up. Exactly, yeah. And with Brian now, I see he does the podcast live on Facebook Live on GA, reaching like 300,000-400,000 people in Ireland alone. In that specific, because GA is very niche content for Ireland. It's just amazing to see. I remember the day he came to us and said that, and now he's so confident in it. And he offers us now bought a new piece of kit actually for the Mojo stuff. Yeah. So that's definitely an example of what we do there. And then extended to that is actually Colin Lyons coming to do a vision and values session with us, with the whole team. And that's where we want to get full alignment on everyone buying into the vision, but actually not just buying into it, it's more so creating it with us. And the values, so like if you have a vision, what are the 5 values that we need to show and actually do on a daily basis to achieve that as a company, not as individuals. And your 5 personal values may be different to it, but for the company to achieve its vision, what are the 5 values? And that's really interesting stuff, I feel. And it's about just doing those off-site days with them, and not just, it's not just a rollout from Rich and I. That's not the company we want to build. It's built from the people within it. It doesn't matter if you weren't there on day one. I think that traditional style of this is company owners and that. I get company founders and that people are proud that they found something. I'm really proud that I founded Ponderosa.
So Ross, on that point of, I guess, the vision of a business, how are you incentivizing the team? Tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. So I think Ponderina is not going to be for everyone that's working in sports channels.
Yes.
And we want people to join our team that believe in the journey we're on at Ponderina, and in their career want to make serious difference now. So when we have someone come in, like we just had a new employee join us, and an employee, I'm going to touch on that, the word employee doesn't really exist. I'll say employee and this shows that someone gets it. Yeah, they're not, like we didn't bring them in as an investor. Technically they're an employee, but rather I don't really think the word employee exists at Ponderina. I think team member does.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I bet you it's team member.
Yeah, so like when we have a new team member come in, she's so good at her job and dealing with remote contributors, we can feel the uplift straight away.
Okay.
And she's not there for money. She's there because she loves sports, she loves content, and she loves working with people. So instantly now she's very fulfilled in her role. It's not that it's an easy role, it's actually probably one of the toughest jobs in Ponderina. Previously was a one-person team. But she can see the impact of it. So like last month, 38% of our traffic came from external content contributors. Like that's at a really high level. Most publications don't do that. Even the Huffington Post does 85-80% of its traffic, give or take, from internal. So to do 38% from external, and we could see the uplift when she came in to achieve those figures, was a straight away. And that's a person that really wants to make a difference in her work life, so taking life as a whole, as I say, one pie. You know, whatever percentage of that is work. That when she does that, she doesn't see it as work. It's just a part of her life. I would hope so. From the way I look at it, that's the way we look back at it. And she's there to make a difference. I really don't think there's anyone at Ponderina driven by money. You know, it's a startup where we're trying to put money into bringing in more great people. I think money's a really bad driver. Like I've had often people say to me, "Oh, I get where you work for Ponderina. You're going to make a load of money." And I'm like, no. Do you know how the vision's so big with high-scale companies that the chances of them making it there and all the nooks and crannies are you know, it's tough, and you have so many variables that really, if I was just in this for money, I'd just clock out right now. Everyone wants to hire. A lot of the big tech companies put an emphasis on hiring dyslexics now and bring them into a team. Then if it was about money, friend, I'd just go and work for one of these. I love what I do on my work side of my life so much that it gives me so much satisfaction. And when you see other people in the team, say like Brian, you know, the satisfaction he must have got out of seeing that explode around Ireland in particular, like money can't buy that stuff.
You can't put that.
Like but what does money allow you to do really? If money allows you to go and live your life outside of work, and you're able to have a drink with your friends, buy dinner, get what you need to do done, is that not enough? Like I'd definitely take having that and having my work really where I actually get up out of bed in the morning and I enjoy it. You know, often when I walk down the streets, especially in Cork actually, you can see people who walk really, really slowly on their lunch break, and they're so happy to be on lunch. And it's just a weird thing. I've seen it. I met a buddy of mine, and he said, "You know, I'm really, man, where I'm at now, I don't want to be there." And he's like, "I know, I've got 30 minutes left for lunch." And I was like, fantastic guy, really intelligent, and really respect him. But I would hate to be in a space where I didn't love what I do. Like or love, whatever word you want to do, at least like, you know. And so it's, I don't think for us, then obviously, yeah, we want to incentivize staff that if there's financial rewards and incentives come into it, sure, that they're all givens. But definitely, I would say the primary driver, 90% driver in people we're looking for is to join something that's making a real difference. And then the smaller stuff is after that. But if someone comes into us and said in an interview, even if they were so talented, and they said, you know, what's the financial payout here? Because I really, really, really am driven by money, then regardless of how talented they are, we'd say, thanks so much for coming in and doing 2 interviews with it, but this isn't, you're not going to love it here. Because if that's the driver, we wouldn't like to bring someone into the team that's driven by that. Because I don't think people that are driven by money are driven in the right way. That's my opinion. But I'm sure, lot of people watching this right now disagree with me. That's cool.
But I think you've said something that a lot of people need to hear. There is an illusion for anyone who's not an entrepreneur that if you are an entrepreneur, you're rolling in money or that you are highly motivated by it. But I see highly motivated people pursuing a passion, either with a view to bettering their own life or serving the lives of others. That, to me, is an entrepreneur. So I think it's an important message to be able to get across. It's not always about the money. And I think for the countless fans who are submitting work to you guys, it's not about the money for them either. It's about expressing their passion through writing.
Oh, sure. I mean, I've looked at externals get thousands, hundreds of thousands of reads on articles. And when they look at Ponderina, they're saying, like, I like what that publication stands for, and I can reach an instant user base. You know, and when they get satisfaction of having something read thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, like, that's irreplaceable. People that they'll never ever know who they are, and they'll know that they're interested in MMA and Conor McGregor, or they know that they're interested in rugby, or football, soccer, you know, whatever it is. And that's something that, how could you say to them, money's gonna do that for you? I don't think you could. And I think if you look at it, anyone who is really good at something or loves something. If you take a guy that's really, really good at surfing and he loves it, maybe he feels like he has to go do 9 to 5 and he can do it as a hobby. If he went and dedicated his whole life to surfing, I guarantee you, I'd be fancy to bet that he gets so good at it that he would make a living out of it. You know,
Because you find a way.
You would find a way. You're so specifically good at it. I think you know, some of Malcolm Gladwell's stuff is really interesting about the Beatles, 10,000 hours, and you can go a lot deeper on that to be an expert. But if you do love something and you become an expert at it, like, just take it as a basic principle, experts in certain fields do get paid financially very well to either give learnings or teach back or provide consultancy or services in what they do. So I always found that as a interesting basic principle.
What advice would you give to someone who had an idea,
Sure,
and they weren't really sure how to get it off the ground, or what to do with the idea? He's a young guy, maybe just finished college in UCC.
yeah.
What would you tell him to do?
You know, speaking in Ireland in general, I think they're in a very good progressive country in terms of, you know, I think the word entrepreneur is thrown around a lot now in Ireland, and founders, and maybe it's slightly overhyped, but you are in a place where the government technically has the third biggest seed venture capitalist firm in the world in Enterprise Ireland, which is fantastic. There's fantastic networks and local enterprise support offices that then feed into Enterprise Ireland. You are in a place where there is massive supports. I think the community in Ireland within people starting new projects, new businesses, is a very open one. So that if you reach out to anyone, I would say you're not going to get a no from someone. It's like, no problem, I'll give you coffee, I'll give you my time over coffee. And that's kind of, I've always seen that reaction, and that credit to Irish people. Not saying we're perfect, we're far from it, but there's always an attitude in Ireland to help, or they're saying, you know, I'll help there, and I'm happy to give my experience into that, and I'm happy to.
Well, sure, look at you coming onto my show.
Yeah, sure. You know, and it's cool, and I mean, it's good karma. It's what you input. If you give input to someone, you're giving back, and you're getting it, and that's the way it should work.
Giver's gain.
It's definitely. I definitely agree with that. That concept. But you would say, you know, I would definitely, if you have an idea, tease it out. I wouldn't dwell on the fact too much. I'd leave money out of it for the moment. My bank account was -10, certainly, and it still is.
I know the feeling.
And still is. And I would say, look at the idea and start finding out, is that a problem people have? Is that something that if I develop, people will really love and use? And if you start to, and that can be B2B, it can be B2C, you'll find out if I put this product out there, and it's maybe rough and ready, minimal viable product, but in its slightly broken minimal viable way, that still works, you know, to the basic point. Will people use it and enjoy it and love it and give a shit about it? And I would say that people, there's probably the point. If you think that can happen, and you can tease out, or you can see that happening, and maybe if you can test it, great. But if you can't, like, people say in Ireland, oh, it's great, just build a minimum viable. That's great if you've got something like pondering. If you've got a medical product, how the hell are you going to do that? There's a serious funding requirement there. So there's different, you'd have to trade off. But if whatever the closest point you think you can get to in your particular life, that you can say, right, I've got confidence in this. I don't dwell on it. That doesn't have to be a long process. A couple of months, could be a couple of weeks, who knows? And go for it. But I used to say go for it constantly. But I think people should be very sure of, understand what you're getting into, and be sure that you want to go for it. And I think I would have said, if I'd answered this a year ago, I would have said, yeah, go for it. And I'm all for that. But understand, say, what am I going to do with this business? Or where is my vision for this business? And where's it going to go? And if you're happy with that, then go on the journey. Don't just go on it for the sake of going on it. If you're like, I love this, and I'm going to go for it, and I can see it in 5 years being used all over the world. I can see it in 10 years being absolutely everywhere, whatever it is for you. And even there's such an emphasis on high-scale ventures in Ireland. If someone wants to set up a coffee shop in Dublin, and they really like the area of Dublin, and they're so happy working in it, then that's right for them, and what makes them happy. The emphasis on what wouldn't make me happy is if we said, oh, we're just going to stop in Ireland. That's just me. If someone else writes a publication, they love it. They're so happy in Ireland. They're winning. So it really has to be per person. It doesn't matter if someone else's vision is to go do this the world over. If your vision is to nail it down in Dublin and have maybe say one coffee shop, and then the next guy down the road, he's got another idea, and he's saying, what really gives me the buzz, that really drives me on, is to have this everywhere. And then another woman is down the road, and she's thinking, for me, if I could get this out and about, well used around Europe, that's success for me. So there's different levels. It's whatever everyone's comfortable with.
It's a really, really unique experience. I think there's no one way to define success. It's basically what you want it to be, isn't it?
It's you.
Yeah.
It's not like, if you're happy and you deem yourself successful, then who's to say you're not? Yeah. You can't turn around and say, you can say, oh no, but generally this is success. Yeah. But it's like, no, that's success to that person, or it might be perceived, but if you think you're successful, then you are. Yeah. So it's an interesting one that I don't think it kind of can get overshadowed in the emphasis. I understand Enterprise Ireland, everyone, they have jobs are made, and they're going to lend themselves towards high-scale ventures. That's fine, but there's definitely a place for cottage industries and lifestyle businesses and people doing it their way. Do it your way, and I think when you're doing it, understand that when you make a decision, you're calling it. You can take advice from everyone. Everyone can say this, and the other. Whatever call you make, be good with it. So if it goes really right, really wrong, okay, you still make the call. You can take advice off everyone, but be good with the calls, and then be good with the outcome, and understand the risk and everything. But definitely, I'd say, hypothetically taking a guy starting out, they're in a good place, and definitely figure out if it's for you. Don't just let it go by. At least figure it out.
I'm so excited that you said that. I'm going to keep recording, but check to make sure this is going. I'm so excited that you said that, because I think there's so many people who get caught up with looking at other people's success. And whilst I think it's incredible to be able to find someone that's successful and model them in some way, it's really important that we don't become fixated on that one definition, because exactly like you've said, what works for you might not work for me. What your definition of success is might not be someone else's. So we do need to explore a little bit what that means. And we need to be able to give it a chance and give it a go in some way.
I think Danny Lennon's a great example of that. And if you look at Pundarina and Sigma Nutrition, they're on, Pundarina is on one journey on a high pace and has a funding requirement to scale the team to achieve the high pace and the trajectory that it wants to achieve. Danny's gone about building a brand of himself and Sigma Nutrition at a particular pace in a particular manner that he wants to do, that he's happy with. Yeah. If you come across Danny, for me, over the last 8 years, I've seen a guy who's now so confident and so sure of himself and so happy in himself that it's really pleasurable for me to see him succeed so well at what he's doing. So when we walk into a Holland and Barrett shop, someone's asked him when he's playing, are you Danny Lennon of the Sigma
that happen?
Nutrition podcast? It has.
Yeah.
You know, and jokes aside, I'm like, does anyone want an autograph?
Yeah.
But like that,
Selfies.
like, you can see in Danny that he's really happy in he's succeeding and at what he's doing, and he's doing unbelievable. But if someone turned around to Danny in the morning and said, hey Danny, let's get 100 of you and here's €1 million and hire up 100 of you guys around the world and build offices everywhere, and I'm going to be a stakeholder, we're going to meet every week. You know, that's a completely different one, and you'd have to ask him whether he's good with that or not. You know, my opinion is that he probably isn't, but because he wants to do it his way, that makes him happy. You know, and that's what it's all about for me, and that's what it's all about. And once you feel like you're winning, then you are winning. No one can tell you you're not.
I always love to ask my guests these questions. What one thing do you do every day to make your life awesome? So your personal life, outside of pundit arena.
Yeah, I would say I've definitely gotten better at stopping work at some stage. I don't think like that's this
like
concept.
off.
Yeah, I think the concept of doing like 20-hour days is insane. I think that some days you will have to do that and make the sacrifice, and there's a trade-off. But I would say, you know, I've done a lot of work on myself and my approach to work and life, and just getting the balance to actually switch off or attempt to in the best manner that I can, and just make a conscious effort to just stop.
And it does
chat
actually,
to my buddy on my phone.
It takes that effort, doesn't it?
It takes just an effort to stop, and I think it's, you know, you feel like you shouldn't, but actually what you're doing is you're stopping, and your productivity levels, if you keep going, and your output quality levels, they're just stopping. Because there's only one route. And there are some, you burn out, and there are some days when you just have to keep going because you've got a deadline on something that can't be missed, and there's a trade-off. And actually, ironically, in your trade-off and you going so far, there's probably a trade-off in quality, so you need to get someone to watch that. But just making the conscious effort to stop and enjoy my life outside of work. And as well, there's so many things that you take in your personal life that shape you as a person, that change your thoughts on something or make you think differently, and just experience things. Like I'm definitely making the conscious effort now to actually experience things. And like even this Saturday, I'm going to Longitude.
Ah, nice.
You know, I'll definitely want to do some rock climbing. I just made a kind of a mini bucket list for myself.
I like to hear it.
To just go and knock a few things out. I'd love to get in the water with great white sharks off the coast of Johannesburg, just to witness that. Fascinated with sharks actually, and killer whales and orcas.
There's an awesome documentary on Netflix called Sharks that I watched.
I'm watching it.
Yeah,
it's on episode 2, I think. They got to load up the third one.
I have just finished watching one, and then Blackfish on Netflix as well.
Oh, Blackfish, we could talk for hours.
Go to show, I really do feel like in order to keep your own cup full, in order to keep the business, I like to say, sparkly, you need to fill your own cup. You need to make sure that you're stimulated, that you're growing, that you're fulfilled in your personal life. And I only think your our businesses will benefit as a result of it.
100%. Yeah. Like 100%. Like even my co-founder Rich is on holiday now for 2 weeks.
Oh, great.
I actually deliberately try not to contact him. Okay. And you know, I know it's tough for him to switch off. You know, is the laptop gone with him? Sure, it is. You know, and he's trying to switch off. And he said a great line in the office. He said, you know, I'm going on the basis that I need a break because I haven't gone on holidays now in over a year, and I need to go. I want to stop, and when I come back, I know that my productivity will be better. I know my output will be better. That's a given, and that by taking the break, he's actually being responsible, and being responsible to the rest of the team in a way. And like, if you went into some companies and said that, they'd probably think like,
that's actually a really good way to put it.
Crazy is that?
Yeah, just like, because I think you are leading a team, you do have a responsibility to be at your best.
100%.
And that's where self-care for so many very senior, I guess, people within a team, they underestimate it, and it's nothing that we really take stock of, that you do need to take that break, and you do need to be able to, you know, put fuel into the old body.
100%, yeah. And for everyone on the team, you know, and that's why we were saying, you know, I think it's just clause in one of our contracts that you can't take more than 10 days break, and someone asked for it today, and we're like, sure, you're doing such a good job, go for it, you know, and take that time, and enjoy your holiday, and have a great time. Tell us all about it when you come back, please do.
Just don't go to SeaWorld.
Don't go to SeaWorld. But it's interesting, you know, at that point in SeaWorld, 20 years ago, you went to SeaWorld. You know, if we didn't have the development of watching Blackfish, you know, when you watch Blackfish, even if you took someone who had gone to SeaWorld last month, they would have, you would imagine a reasonable person would think, no, why did I gave them money? No, no, they're so wrong. So like even taking the time to watch Blackfish, you're self-educating yourself on what's going on and making the change so that, you know, in 20 years' time there won't be a SeaWorld. Or if there is, it's going to be very different. There won't be any orcas in captivity, and society, you know, as a whole is better off for it. But it's definitely, I think there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, and that's one thing. Actually, hypothetical. Go back to your question on the kid from UCC is just about to start.
Okay, yeah.
I'd say don't ignore yourself. Don't ignore your own. Like, don't go into this thinking that everything has to stop. I just have to put myself into this business, and I'm going to do everything I can. And no, I'm never going to meet my friends for a drink, and I'm going to just I'm not going to do anything else. And it's just like that's actually probably the worst way you could go at it. And I know that because I've done that, I've tried that, and I've tweaked and changed.
And a notion that we have to attend to our own desires, our own needs, and it doesn't matter where you are in the business. It doesn't matter if you're a member of a team, if you're a founding member, a director. It's really important that we don't ignore ourselves and that we can invest in our personal growth and development. At the end of the day, it's investing in our happiness, and I think it's so important that we do that. And that's why I love asking people, what do you do to make your life awesome? Because it helps to remind people that there's a life outside of the business as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome. What do you do to make your business awesome? So what one habit or ritual, if you reflect on it, do you think, oh, I've done this every day and that's kind of helped me get to where I am right now?
Always sit back and have a look at what we're doing on a macro level.
Okay.
So I'd probably take about 5-6 segments of the business.
Okay.
Look how they're functioning. Have a quick look. Look at the inefficiencies or areas we can improve. Some of them can be quite simple. Some of them can be complex. Look at things of like, is that scalable? Is that not? How if something isn't scalable? What does a scalable model look like? Okay. How far away from a scalable model is our current model if here's a scalable? What are the changes we probably need to implement there? And then I often would shelve a lot of the thoughts until I've self-developed them a bit.
Okay.
And then bring them to the team.
Okay. And what do you mean by self-developed them? As in...
Like I've thought about them. I've thought them out, and I've thought them out. But again, I'm just one person. So when I bring something to the team or a specific section, area of the team, now you have 2 or 3 heads involved. And maybe we bring it out, maybe it's a wider issue and we go to everyone. And then you have so much power. You know, I'm probably the stupidest guy in Pundit Arena, like in that this guy's masters, PhDs, insane IQs. And when they get the ability to think about things, and maybe I'm just spotting it and saying, if you sit back for a second, look at that, that doesn't really work. And here's how I think it might look. And that's a spark. But then if you look at the answer that comes out, it's so refined and well developed that when you say, that's what I thought was scalable, but here's the answer now, that's like super scalable. And I think you're always looking for scale in anything you're doing, and the things that they aren't scalable, is there a fix to instantly maybe take away some of the pain, and then we're in a longer term fix to bring it to a scalable situation. Because if we're not moving into scalable situations throughout the business, you'll collapse. When you're looking at making something scalable, and that's a lot of what my job is, I would say, you know, if I think about 3 things every day, it's probably people, product and money, and balancing off that. Because if you go into a high scale venture situation, the tendency is that you'll go into this dip in terms of revenue versus profitability and break even somewhere here. And not being afraid to go into the dip, even though the model is profitable, you're going to staff the company into a situation where it's below break even and to come out. And that's why high scale ventures would take money to be able to provide. And like, for me, all money gets you is it gets you extremely talented people that can deliver hyper growth situations. And that's really what it does. And it's just about, like, even when we take someone in now, I looked at it, we had no onboarding. How nuts is that? Like, I wrote a blog on it, if someone probably looked at that from that was working in Dell, they'd be like, how insane is this? That we have no onboarding system. So we actually, with a cool core company, which is the first core company to ever be backed by Y Combinator, which is like a really big VC, really prominent one in the States for early stage companies, which is really cool. It's called One Rocket. Really simple system. Just shows people contact details for people, what we stand for as a publication, and just read through it, and it's all functions really well. So now when we take in super talented people, that they're able to get in to the company, settle down really fast, and then come into their role. Because, say for the last role we hired for, we had 128 people apply for it, and we brought that down to one, which was really tough.
Jesus, I'd say so.
But if you're talking about that, if someone said to us, like, that guy's not working, you've got to say, well, is he not working? How is 1 in 128 not the right person for the job? And what did you do to help him settle in? Was your onboarding on point? Did he not get into the WhatsApp group for 2 weeks? So he felt like he didn't actually have a personal communication with you. No, simple stuff makes a difference. So, yeah, we have a good onboarding system in place right now. Really helps. And just little changes like that, you'd be surprised, little tweaks, just making sure the efficiency as the columns get bigger. And that's really key parts of it.
What's been, and we'll finish off on this, what's been one of the best things that's happened since you set up Thunder Arena back in 2013?
This is actually a really easy answer for me.
Okay.
And that's weird. The best thing that's happened for me is there's a guy that writes for us called Chris Keller, and his self-development, in my opinion, has been absolutely, like, if it was on a chart, it would just be like this. Chris came to us. He was a third-year placement student in commerce in UCC. I'd done the same course previously to that myself, so we've taken someone actually every year off the course, and they've been great. And Chris was able to come in, settle into a company at a very early stage, had never written before, became so much more confident, great at his job, really putting in input that was affecting the bottom line in terms of users and hits. And for a guy that came down and similar to me, maybe wasn't the best on paper in terms of scoring in class. And I joked to him and said, don't worry, I'm in the same boat, and we don't go off just CV here, because I think that's a really bad representation of what someone is and what they can bring to the table.
Particularly those goddamn Leaving Cert results.
Yeah, it's just like, what? So Chris came in, and Rich and I were actually on an Enterprise Ireland program called Access Silicon Valley, so we were gone for a month to San Francisco. In that time, and I think it's really attributed to, say, someone like John Murphy, who helped develop a culture of improvement and assistance and nurturing within Thunder Arena, and other key staff within the team that enabled John to create that culture. And John's a real leader, so he's able to do that and bring people with him in doing that. That Chris was able to multiply his output so much, settle in, and then when I left, he was maybe quite shy in the role. I came back and there was a different guy, welcome with a handshake back in the door, first day back to San Francisco. You could just see that this guy come on so much. And Chris was actually the first ever placement student in UCC to win an award for his placement with a startup company. And so Thunder Arena was up there with Heineken and Ernst & Young. And you just see Thunder Arena wedged between the two, Chris Keller. And it was for me, it was such a proud moment, because the key point of the story is that Rich and I really weren't there to have that much of an influence on Chris's development. Our team was. And that was the coolest moment for me ever. And possibly, I don't know how it could be beaten, really. I hope that it will in a way, but I'll never forget it. In that the team that had joined us on the journey were able to make this much of a difference on a guy's life. And that, for someone that would have never, like, if you would put this on odds on Paddy Power of the 140 students that went on placement, Chris was very similar to me, and it wasn't great on paper in terms of scoring in college. He was the rank outsider, like Leicester City last year in the Premier League, to win a placement award. There was all these 1-1 students that are going to become directors of corporate entities, and that's great, and well done to them. There's obviously that space. But Chris came into a startup which is unknown to him, loved sport, was very dedicated, very articulate, very passionate, and that could have been easily overlooked. Came in, made a massive difference, and not only he was one of the top 3 students out of 140 like Chris now on his degree from UCC will read distinction award for placement, and I just thought that was a testament to everyone at Pundit Arena, and our team certainly wasn't outside of Richard and I to be able to deliver that. And that goes back to the point: can money buy that? You know, you have to ask the team, John and everyone in the written content team, how satisfying for them was it to watch Chris develop to be such a great person? Not saying that he wasn't, but just develop in so many ways that he enhanced himself as an individual, and then was be able to recognise by the college for it. And like that's, you know, that was no messing. Like I was there that night and the college asked me to say a few words, and I was happy to. But I noticed there were just the runner-up students that hadn't won the award were all these big companies, and there was directors of finance there from these big companies, and you were just sitting there going, wow, we actually did do something really special here. And it's great to see that the college recognised it, and certainly it was well deserved for Chris, and that was the coolest moment. And it was because we weren't physically there as founders, as individuals to do it. That's what made it.
Thank you. Better Life Project TV was created to inspire people who are afraid to take that jump, or who feel like they're being held back by something. And I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to come onto the show, because I know that you're going to inspire a lot of people. I have clients in my head who I know are going to be listening to this going, okay, he's done it. I know I can do it too.
Right. So, anyone that ever wants to meet for a coffee or anything like that, Ross at punditarena.com. The email's not hard to guess. Always happy to meet someone. Yeah. Always happy, as like you were saying earlier on, to givers gain, and that's definitely something I'm more than happy to do.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, Robert. It's a real pleasure. Enjoyed it.
If people are going to look for more information about where they can find you personally or Pundit Arena online, I know that there's a lot of Facebook pages for the different sports.
Sure.
So it could be Pundit Arena GAA.
Yeah, Pundit Arena football, and of course the best way to consume content in written format, because we do produce an image and video and sound, so obviously third-party platforms are best for that. But if you want to take in written content, go to punditarena.com. Yeah. You'll find all the details from there. Okay. And if anyone thinks that they should be a sports writer, there's an application section on the site.
Watch out, guys.
More than happy to obviously, we're always excited to get new people to apply. And always more than happy to take on new users and get them to experience the product. Awesome.
I think there's a lot of very, very excited people watching this right now. Guys, punditarena.com and Ross at punditarena.com if you're looking to email him as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really enjoyed it. And best of luck with everything. It's a great project. I can really see the difference that this is making to people. You should be very proud.
I'm excited about it. I really am. I heard someone the other day say that they were binge watching on Better Life Project TV, and I just said, nothing will ever put a price on what that person has just said to me.
That's exactly it. It's the same, just what we talked about with Christelle. You can never, you couldn't buy that. Yeah. You just can't.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.